Good afternoon. This is Regis from Blue. Thank you for being with us today for this number 8 in our Catch and Do session. This one is dedicated to sustainability by design, and we're going to study today the Elevate case by Hyundai. So I am Regis Hamelin, CTO of Blue, and with me this afternoon to moderate this discussion, I have the pleasure to have Mira Bodo, Open Innovation Project Manager at Blue. Good afternoon, Mira.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
And I would like to thank our sponsors this afternoon, DIH² and Oasis, two European projects funded under Horizon 2020. So DIH² is a network of digital innovation hub with the ambition to make advanced robotics solutions more affordable for smart manufacturing. And we want to generate innovation that maximizes productivity and optimizes agility for European SMEs and mid-caps. So two important information here. The first one is that if you are a digital innovation hub and that you are not yet into this network, if you have interest into smart manufacturing and robotics, you have the opportunity to join the network. We have a current call right now with this link that Mira is going to share in the chat right now. There's also a grant of 10,000 euros to help you to join the network. So that's a very interesting offer right now. And we also have another opportunity if you are a robotic integrator or a startup in smart manufacturing, then you also have the opportunity to become an exclusive integrator of RAMP. So for more information, you just need to follow the link that you have here. You need to apply before the end of the year, December 16th, and we will have a webinar, dedicated webinar next week on that topic. So more on that at the end of this webinar. And the second sponsor is Oasis. Oasis is a network for advanced manufacturing in composites. So it's a network of pilot lines, showcases, and service providers. You have here a list of research organizations and experts in composites that are part of the network and are providing their know-how and knowledge for you if you want to get into composites. So don't hesitate to reach out for these two projects, for these two networks. These are really valuable networks to be in. So this webinar is recorded, and you will get access to the recorded version of that webinar later. It will be available from our YouTube channel. It's also interactive, so you will have the opportunity to share your views. Don't hesitate to share your views on the chatter. But you also have the possibility to ask questions to our guest today, and we will take questions around the end after 45 minutes at the end of this webinar. So our guest today, so I'm very pleased to have today John Su. So thank you, John Su, for being with us this afternoon and this morning for you because you are located in the Silicon Valley. Good morning.
Good morning and good afternoon.
You are Vice President and Founding Director of the New Horizon Studio at the Hyundai Motor Group. So we're going to discuss these two aspects. What is the New Horizon Studio and what is your mission within the Hyundai Motor Group? Okay, so let's get into it. We want to see if you want to make a quick demonstration on how you can interact with our poll system. So Mira is going to launch a first question. So what is your weather and mood today? We want to know how you feel. Do you feel sunny? Do you feel cloudy? So I'll let you a few moments to answer the question, to answer the poll. You see that you have multiple choices or just one choice, it depends. So yeah, most of you are kind of sunny today. Some are cloudy, some others are rainy. I hope it's just the weather and not really your mood. So, and nobody's told me, so we shouldn't have too hard questions this afternoon for you. Only people who are really excited about what is going on today. Okay, so thank you, Mira. I think we can close this poll, and we can see that we have mostly sunny people today. Right. So we are Blue Morpho. Blue Morpho, we deliver disruption. And what does that mean? It means that we deliver disruption in technology or business models or new ventures. We do that. How we do that? Why we do that? We do that because we want to make disruption happen for a smarter and more sustainable future. This is why we have created Blue Morpho. And how we do that? We do that with three kind of actions. The first one is to engage your team. If you're a large corporate or even a digital innovation hub, we are 100% customer centric, and we are identifying with you the hotspot for value creation. And we do that in a startup mode into your organization. You are isolated from your organization, and we create a small cell, a small activity within your company. Second product is the open innovation. So for any questions about technology scouting, identification of the ecosystem that you need to build a new innovation, so Mira Vodo is the right contact for you. And we also have a venture studio activity when we have completed the full process. So we do that by addressing the triggers for disruption, and this is exactly what the Catch and Do is about. We want to identify these triggers. We want to address them. So if you want to enter into our network, you just connect on our website, and you can sign up and create an account. We are always looking for startups because we have continuous calls. We are constantly looking for startups in robotics at the moment, so don't hesitate to reach out through our website. So let's get into it now. I would like to know from your standpoint, you as the audience, from what you know of Hyundai, from what you know about the Elevate case, from what you think, what keeps Jianshu awake at night? So this is a question we have for you. So Mira, you can launch this second question. And yeah, while the people are answering this second question, John, maybe you can start to introduce yourself, explain your background, where you're coming from.
Sure. So first of all, Regis and Blue Morpho, thank you for the opportunity to join this Catch and Do session. And I also want to thank all the members of the audience listening in. I know we're meeting virtually, but it's my pleasure to have you here on this panel. And those of you who are not necessarily feeling sunny today, that's okay, because we all have good days and bad. And so I appreciate those that are not feeling so good but still joining us here today. So I'm with Hyundai Motor Group. I've been with Hyundai for 10 years. Just by way of background, I'm an engineer by training, both in electrical and mechanical engineering. I started off my career at Hyundai in the corporate venture capital activity based in Silicon Valley. That's where I first met Blue Morpho, doing a lot interested in their, among other things, technology scouting and technology assessment capabilities. Since about early 2020, I started New Horizon Studio. It is a team within the R&D division of Hyundai Motor Group, and our mission is to develop products for our future customers who want or need to travel over difficult terrains or into places that are difficult to access through conventional cars or cars with kind of conventional suspension systems. And we are about 2 years into less than 2 years into our journey, so we're in the beginning stages. So you'll hear a little bit about that today.
Okay, thank you. So maybe we can look at the results of the poll. I'm going to close the poll and share the results. So yeah, a quarter of the audience today think that your job is to develop new technologies to transfer to Hyundai. Only 8% of the audience today think that your main problem is to to reflect on how to make a working car. And 21% is think about the usage of renewable resources, but the majority is to 38% of the people here. Your role is to give clients access to sustainable means of mobility. And for 8% of them, they think that maybe you know something that we don't know, and your main concern is the collapse of our industrial civilization. So yeah, what do you think? Is it your motivation to create the Elevate concept, the collapse of our industrial civilization? Maybe you could introduce us to that concept. What is the Elevate concept?
Sure. The Elevate concept is technically speaking, is a vehicle that combines robotics with a conventional car design. So we have for each of the wheels of this vehicle is attached to a robotic leg. That robotic leg provides two basic functions, or it enables two basic functions. First is the ability to walk like a quadruped. And the second thing is to provide what we call a high range of motion suspension system. So in short, we call this simply the walking car, or a car with legs. So in fact, the correct answer is the second one, how to make a walking car. That said, what I'm going to do is maybe explain how the other answers are still relevant. They are still things that pertain to what we're doing, but in fact, the core mission of my team is to develop a walking car.
Okay, yeah, and what is the idea behind the design of this working car? What is the philosophy, the overall vision behind the car?
The overall vision is, to provide, where cars today, unless they have the ability to are highly modified, are only able to travel over, roads, either paved roads or on unpaved roads, but there are still many places that we as humans want or need to travel to, right? And so the idea was that we want to really extend mobility into places that are really kind of difficult to access or kind of off-road. And so this occurs primarily when we have, I think, we're trying to do maybe two major things. One is I call exploration, learning and going to places that have not been traveled very much. And the other one, it has to do with kind of dangerous or kind of emergency or disaster situations where the roads are completely damaged or eliminated through natural or human caused disasters. So these are somewhat extreme, but what this allows us to do, by going in, and you see some of the pictures here, what this allows us to do is to really go beyond the typical way of designing a car, the typical use of a car. And as we do that, part of the innovation story is that it then gives us the opportunity to go to do something we may not have done otherwise, right? And then from that, we learn a lot. In my case, I'm really trying to expand the capability of what we consider a four-wheeled vehicle. But I truly believe that in that process, we will learn things which we can apply to other vehicles that may not need such an extreme capability, but nonetheless, going to the extreme allows us to do easier things if we want to. And so the idea of the name New Horizon Studio, I use that name to suggest that we are really going to go beyond the typical horizons by which a car company thinks about what is a car and how is a car used.
Yeah, you want really to get rid of the history of how to make cars and to reinvent both the cars, but also the way how to make cars, and even the innovation path. Okay,
Yeah,
so
That's right.
Yeah, go. Yeah, okay. So maybe we can talk now about the design of that car. We see that we have a lot of new things in that car. So we could talk about many aspects, but we would like to talk more about the materials. So we want to talk about what are the main challenges addressed in the design of the Elevate. So we have another poll for you to answer. So I don't know if Mira, you can, I will launch this poll. So I want to, so what are the difficulties basically in implementing this kind of a concept? We want to have something sustainable. So is it, what are the main difficulties? Is it about the value chain, which is not circular, the difficulty to find biosourced materials, the lack of competencies in terms of eco-design, or maybe you will find new problems emerging because robotic car creates all kinds of new problems, or maybe about the energy management. So yeah, what are the main problems that you have encountered? In fact, there are multiple ways to consider sustainability. You can choose to use materials with renewable resources, or implementing a circular value chain, or you can design for an easy disassembly or repair, or for longer durability. So what was your approach with the design of this concept, the Elevate concept?
So you know, with that poll that was just shown there, you know, is a really good, I think, list of issues that we are facing. So when I designed the vehicle, there's sort of two ways, two dimensions, basic dimensions I think about. One is, as I mentioned, the sort of the use case and the new capabilities of walking and going over inaccessible or very difficult terrains. And then we say it also opens up a new opportunity at the same time. It's another dimension, and that is this dimension of materials, sustainability, manufacturing, you know, closed loop value chains of the materials, and et cetera. And so at this point, because we are still very early in the development of the car, and we're still working on the core technology components, virtually everything, almost everything, is kind of being questioned, right? And looking at sustainability, materials, recyclability, disassembly, repair, durability, and our approach is quite simply, almost I would say, question everything. Kind of nothing is you know, everything can be thought of like, well, what if, right? What if we did this, or what if we did that, and why not? And I think the other way thought process is that, you know, we know so much now, right, as a civilization, about the environmental, climate change, difficulties and problems ahead of us. We have so much information now that I think it's important to keep just to be honest about, you know, one, the problems that we are facing in now and in the near future, and also the responsibility to try to do something differently in a different way. And so to say, in other words, to say that, well, let's do things the way we have always done, is, I believe, to be a little bit too narrow-minded, right? Because we know a lot now, right? We can just turn the television on, or the YouTube or whatever it is, and we just see all these stories. So again, the approach is to question everything about what we do and how we do it, and we will do our best to go in a path that I think is going to help make things more sustainable.
Right. I will share the results of the poll just to show that, in fact, people don't think that circular value chain or biosourced materials could be the main problem. They think that the main problems come from the robotic issues around the cars, and maybe new problems in energy management. So we are more thinking, the audience is more thinking in terms of technology and capability of the technology. So is that right? Are your hardest problems, are there into robotics or are there more into value chains and materials?
Yeah, in fact, the audience I thought did a really good job of picking out the main. It is in fact having to do with the capabilities of combining robotics and a car together, and that difficulty of both the components that would enable walking capability and then the technical challenges of controlling and managing the energy to do that. So that is in fact the from a critical path development viewpoint, those are front and center to achieving our goal to the walking car. And the other problems that were listed there too, um, from a capability viewpoint, from a product viewpoint, are less so, right? Because then we have alternatives, and so this actually presents a dilemma because in any problem solving activity, in any innovation, I think what I'm experiencing myself personally is that you will identify, I think we all have good, I think a lot of us have good intentions to do the right thing. When we get down to it though, we see that there are pressing problems right in front of our faces. In this case, the controlling of a robotic car and the technical challenges of enabling robotics in the car. And some of the things that we wish to do, we lose focus or we lose maybe the bandwidth to address those problems, like the value chain, like having the ability to design eco-friendly products and so on. And that's what we're facing today. And I think the poll was very interesting to be, I think the poll was very, very actually representative of what's going on, right? We have this desire to do sustainable things, but we have present problems that we're trying to solve, right? And I think if I were to reflect a moment here just now, I'd say that's maybe the reflection of our world, right? We want to do the right thing, but we have present problems in front of us that maybe we would like to do those things, but we can't, for different reasons. So I think it's actually really telling the opinion of the audience. I really appreciate that.
Okay, and let's come back to the materials. So, what is the approach? We talked about biosourced material. Is it the way you want to go?
Yeah, so biosourcing materials is, I think, we look at for many years, people have been talking about, things like biomimicry or bioinspiration or, just generally speaking, more eco-friendly processes among, and so thinking about the use of plant-based materials, especially for composites. So composites, as you may know, are an extremely high strength or high stiffness to weight ratio material compared to other plastics and metals. And so we immediately think about composites, but one of the issues with composites is that it's difficult to recycle. And to address that, we would say, could we use some more plant-based components of composites to enhance the recyclability? And so that's one of the things that we are looking at right now is composite materials for their stiffness and strength to weight ratio properties, but can we make it a more sustainable material through use of plant-based components?
Yeah, very, very important. And we will see also that the reason why you decided to move towards biosourced material is also to make sure that this vehicle could be produced anywhere, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because generally speaking, right, the availability of plants, if you will, is very broadly available, right, of different types. And so we believe that this enables, right, because agriculture is a thing that many countries do, not every country, but many do. And so the availability of local sourcing of plant-based materials is in theory higher or more likely. And so we believe that through the use of plant-based materials, to the extent that we can, will then facilitate, yes, this idea that you can do local sourcing of the raw materials.
So we talked about composites for their stiffness, their weight, the high performance with regard to their weight. Do you consider composites in non-structural material, in non-structural pieces of the car?
Yeah, we actually our primary interest is thinking about the critical structural components of the car, because we know that through high performance vehicles, they use composites today for structural elements. That said, we also understand that if they cannot meet the structural requirements, there are many non-critical components that could be used making plant-based composites. So we think there's a great opportunity here because making things more lightweight in general is very important. So yes, structural first, but we are also definitely thinking about non-structural applications of plant-based composites too.
Yeah, that's where you will have, maybe you can merge multiple features into one material and to make it multiple use. That's
That's right.
yeah, very interesting. So in fact, the world is facing a shortage of about everything at the moment. So do you think that this kind of biosource material could be accelerated due to the current fragility of the supply chain?
Yeah, the supply chain has been really shown us, or at least me, at least that before the pandemic, it was great, uh, but since then it's not great. In fact, it's somewhat broken, some might say. And so it really showed that the industrial cycle today is highly dependent upon a global supply chain that works well, and when it doesn't, it really causes a huge set of problems. So therefore what can we do and have an alternative to requiring a global supply chain? Could we do it in a different way, right? Because what we see now is that when it doesn't work, the global supply chain, it really causes a major disruption in the ability to produce goods, right? And
Yeah.
so we have to ask the question, how can we do things differently?
So let's talk actually about production now. So I will launch another poll. So Mira, if you could launch a poll. So on what are the main challenges on the production of the Elevate? So it seems that in fact, do you have to invent new assembly methods? Do you consider the usage of 3D printing as a standard? Do you think of 3D printing the Elevate? Are you trying to develop a cost-effective solution for small volumes? Because here we are talking about maybe small factories locally, or maybe you're thinking of outsourcing the vehicle assembly, or even the concept of micro factory. So yeah, we'll let the people answer this poll. And yeah, could you elaborate a little bit on what are the challenges in the production of such a vehicle?
Yeah, if I were to put aside for a moment the challenges of the materials themselves, now it's the assembly, right? When I say really however those components are made and what are they, then we have to assemble them and to produce a vehicle. Um, we think one of the hard things that we have to understand, look at it is that product market fit, and that market is, what's the size of that market, right? How many units per year should be produced of these vehicles? And that is a known unknown at this time. Because, however, that said, the unique nature of this vehicle makes it probably a niche product in the beginning, and so we have to ask ourselves, so how do we produce this in a way? It's a niche product, likely a lower volume than a typical mainstream car, and therefore, how do we make this production volume likely to be lower? And then if it's lower, how do we make it in a way that is, profitable, even at lower volumes? And so this is, kind of the big question that we have in front of us, right now. And typically, just as you may know, in the automotive business, mainstream vehicles are 3, 4, 500,000 vehicles per year uh, in a given plant. Globally, it could be millions of vehicles for a given model. And so the automotive industry really pushes, to that kind of volume. And so it is very well suited to high quality production at very high numbers. Well, for cars, for that 400,000 or more per year per plant and so it really becomes profitable. And so we have to say, if it's much less than that, let's say a tenth of that, then how do we produce that in a way that it's not only high quality but at a reasonable cost for the product, for the market that we are trying to address.
Right. Yeah, we can look at the results of the poll. So Mira, if you could share the results. Indeed, most of the people have understood that the challenge is for 40%, the challenge is to develop a cost-effective solution for small volumes. Yeah, that's really, we have a nice distribution here. So 10% think that the new assembly methods are not really the problem. The use of 3D printing as a standard, people do not really believe in 3D printing to become the next way to produce a car. Yeah, and maybe the not so sure about the outsourcing of the vehicle. People are more thinking that the challenge will be in the development of the small volume.
Right.
So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with yeah, I agree with the audience in that case. It's the goal. Quite the question is, how do you produce in smaller volumes? And in the automotive industry, that would be, um, you know, uh, I would say in that 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50,000 units per year is a relatively small volume, right? I know for some cars they do that, they already do that, but I'm talking about things that would be again affordable to the market. And again,
Right.
that's very vague right now because I don't know what the market is exactly. But in that 40 to 50,000 units per year, being profitable, affordable for the market that we want, and that is a known unknown that we have right now.
Mhm.
And so the other things that number 4 was interesting is that the second choice was the outsourced assembly model. And I think one of the things that we think about is, right now, for the most part, right, the vast majority of cars are produced by, by the manufacturer's own assembly plants. That said, could we think about a different way? And those of you who know that are familiar with the semiconductor industry, there are major corporations that their core business is to produce, chips. And whereas the other part of the ecosystem, you just have companies that design chips, and they work with companies that produce the chips to make those designs. And so I wonder, could there be an equivalent ecosystem in the automotive industry where we have essentially a fabless or assemblyless car design company, and then it is manufactured and assembled by yet another company. And that is something
Yeah.
that maybe, could happen. And I don't know, but that's the question so that was interesting to see that was his number 2
Yeah,
problem,
that's
perhaps.
that's that's interesting because that completely changes the way that you design the car. Because today the factories are owned by the car manufacturer,
That's right.
and the design is first. First comes the design, and then some smart people will have the problem to find a way to produce it. And here you have thought the problem a little bit the other way around, right?
That's right. That's right. And so if to use the semiconductor example a bit further, when you're a chip designer, you probably start off with the question, or one of the important questions is, which fabrication process or which plant will I be making this in? And so there's a set of design rules that the designer follows to make that their design. And so in the car industry today, we don't have that constraint, because by and large, there is an assumption that the assembly processes will adjust themselves to whatever the design is. But in this case, it's the order is switched. The designer would then say, which assembly plant will I make? Will this car be made? And I have to adjust my design to that assembly process or manufacturing process. That is not done today. And that would need to be done if we were to go to an outsourced kind of a fabless approach.
Yeah, and the design must be, so you must design a car according to the design rules of the one who's going to produce it. And then you can pool the resources of the factory for multiple car designers or multiple car designs.
That's right, and so it becomes an interesting challenge. Those assembly plants, then yeah, would they would be motivated, right, to then offer a set of processes that have a wide or range of possibilities, right, in different types of cars, and yet being able to produce it profitably. And so I think I would say it's not a solved problem yet, but perhaps that is the way the new world of mobility could go. Again, it's just I think when I think about it, it's an evolution, if you will, of the way things are made. And I think semiconductors do indicate one way, right? It evolved that way, right? And it could be when automotive industry today thinks about changing, right, to become more digital, more about services, then I think it also has to think about the way it produces things, right? And I believe that's very important, because to say we're going to keep everything the way we do today and will be more digital, more service oriented, I don't think that's completely accurate. And I think we have to be more open. I maybe put it that way, but be more open to how we produce things than we do today.
Yeah, and so how do you, if we really project ourselves in the future, how do you see that happen? Do you think that someone needs to invest into this kind of very smart manufacturing company, which is going to accept or absorb any kind of design, or is it a kind of evolution that will come from car makers? Can we imagine, for example, that Hyundai in the future will open his factory for other cars? I'm not trying to.
Yeah, I think I see it happening in two different sides. On the car OEM side, like Hyundai Motor Group, we could, if we were to say, let us become the manufacturer for another for another company that's designing a car. That could be how it evolves from the car OEM side, that we would say, we have these manufacturing and assembly plant, facilities. What can we do to become a manufacturer assembly operation for somebody else? On the other hand, we could have another company that says, no, we are focusing on, say, micro factory philosophy and idea, which is, smaller footprint, lower volume, highly automated, kind of really new thinking, right? Because then they have less legacy to think about, offering capability, design, tools, and et cetera, that they offer out to a car design company, and it's made that way. So I see it happening both ways, where you have a legacy company wanting to extend its business model or offering to others, and then you have a new entrants that are kind of rethinking how it's done altogether, offering its services to a car design operation. So I see both ways happening.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you said it, that's micro factory, either the big company, the big factory from the car manufacturer, or this micro factory need to be super flexible, super automated. It's just as if you can reprogram your factory specifically for one car. And one day you produce one car, the next day you will produce another. I'm just pushing to the limits, but that's just as if you could reprogram your assembly line, right?
That's right, and I think that's doable when you have it constrained, right? Because I think automation, right, the current state of technology for automation, in particular assembly, works well when you understand the variability of what it is you're making, and so then you can program that. I don't think we're that good yet where we can make anything. But if you say within a certain range of types
Right.
of materials and structures and assembly methods, we'll offer this, and then we can then reprogram it, if you will, to make a different product. And I think as long as you're constrained in a certain way, I think you can do really well. And then I think that's the problem, because right now, as a designer, I am not told you must make it this way, right? And so what happens is that I make these designs, I'm making this walking car, I progress so far down the road that when I say now it's time to make it, I've already made a bunch of assumptions about the manufacturing method, which may or may not be suitable to microfactory or automated assembly. And I think that's the thing that's lacking, is that upfront input to the design phase. Like you can design anything you want to, except you must make it within these parameters for assembly in this way, right? That's not presented to me right now. In fact, my team, I don't, even if I wanted to, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to tell them, okay, we're going to use this kind of robotic arm and this assembly method, and therefore you have to design it this way. I don't even know how to present that to them, right? Other than what I just said to them verbally. And so I think there's a gap here between wanting to do it in a certain way, I say automated microfactory, to the reality of design. There is quite a gap there today. And I don't maybe there's a solution I just don't know, I'm not aware of, right? Of what
No,
is there.
that's really interesting. So I don't know if you made the math, but how big could be that micro factory to build cars? How we didn't discuss that before, but do you have any idea on what could be the
Yeah,
size
I,
of
I
such
think
a?
I don't know exactly the square footage, but I was thinking that this could be, not too different from a large, kind of a like a distribution center, or maybe like a large grocery store, kind of
Okay, okay,
kind of a
yeah.
place,
I see that.
that you might find near the city center, right? Not too much more than that, right? And
Mhm.
you and
Yeah,
so
if we close a few big hypermarkets, then maybe we can build those micro factories. Yeah,
right.
because the retail is in a revolution right now. Okay, that's really interesting. So, what are your needs right now? What do you need? Do you need materials? Do you need robotics startups? What are your needs?
Yeah, what I need now is really, I'd say materials, right? Because I think that's the kind of fundamental, like what are the materials that would allow for more sustainable or recyclable or renewable? And this is both the materials and also the energy, used to make that, right? And so I think that kind of begins, like, what is available? What is different than what is being used now, right? And I should say that a lot of materials are already recyclable. Certainly steel is recyclable, aluminum is, a lot of metals are recyclable. So metals, so maybe more in the manufacturing of those certain metals. But I'm talking about what are the other materials and maybe their manufacturing methods that are new and different, right? That maybe haven't been considered. So I think that's where it begins, and then right next to it would be then the assembly methods. How do we assemble this thing? Not so much the assembly methods themselves, but I would say the incorporation of the assembly method is injected into the design phase early on, right? So that
Mm,
as we're designing a part, we understand what it means to assemble one component to the other in an automated or yeah, in an automated and therefore more
mm.
cost-effective way, right?
In
That
fact,
yeah,
what you want to do is to have robotics experts to talk to your designers early in the process. Look at this part. Yeah, I can assemble it easily or not. That's really the kind of discussion that you would like to have, right?
yeah. In fact, I call it I think the audience might be feeling with design for manufacturability or design for assembly, and those disciplines exist today. So
Mm.
it's an evolution of that. I call it design for automated assembly. So just add the word automated. So we have design for assembly today, or DFA, but maybe it's DFAA, designed for automated assembly. I think that discipline is maybe still very young today, and that would be something I would like to see more of, right? Design
Yeah,
for automated assembly.
yeah, maybe we could develop this kind of training within our network, within our European network. That's really interesting.
Right.
Okay, so anything else? Anything else that you need? Maybe, I don't know, other than materials and robotics. What are the main challenges? We didn't talk
Yeah.
about energy.
Yeah, it was brought up early on, one of the first polling questions about, yeah, this question of, the technical challenges of robotics and incorporate them into the car design. And so it has to do with robotics, which is a lot of it is in terms of control, the control software, the algorithms to understand the dynamics of a legged vehicle. So that is actually really important too. I don't want to dismiss that, but that's we have needs there about really about talent and people who understand robotics and then want to now incorporate that into a car design in a very novel way. So really people, right, that the technical talent to kind of help realize such a vehicle. And really, talent in general, right? Not just robotics, but in manufacturing, energy management, materials, all very important. And there's so many problems that we're trying to solve simultaneously, and so having people to help us solve them is very important, right?
Okay, and if you are, so are you open to collaborations on the Elevate? Do you,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we are collaborating with other companies globally that have either expertise in materials or robotics software, and so we're very open to that. We have an open innovation approach to things, meaning that we are open to work with companies with technical and know-how in different areas and to work with them together on realizing such a vehicle. We as Hyundai in this case don't have to own everything, but I think within hopefully a mutually beneficial way to collaborate with others. And I think I say that because what's really important for me is I think as we look into our future, our collective future, we understand that there are many problems that we have to solve, right? And I really believe that innovation plus collaboration is going to be the way to do that, right? To solve the collective problems that we all face in front of us. And if we are all trying to maximize our own economic return, I do think if we have that mindset, I think there's a fundamental incompatibility with that, right? If you want to maximize your economic return and address the world's problems, I don't think, I mean, I understand the motive, right? But if we have so many problems that are facing us as collectively as humanity that unless we collaborate and innovate together, I think
yeah.
the solutions will come later, but I think we need solutions faster than ever before, right? And so without collaboration, I don't see how we can accomplish our collective goal of making the world a better place.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great message. Thank you. So yeah, for people who like to get in touch with John, with Blue Morpho, DIH Squared, or Oasis, so it's a moment for you to raise your hand and to maybe ask a few questions. I launched the last poll, so yeah, I was looking at the question, and we had indeed during the broadcast technical problem with the poll screen, which was maintained for too long. So sorry about that. There was a technical issue, and it took us time to figure it out. So if you have questions for John, it's the right moment. If you have questions more for anything related to the Elevate, for the activity of Hyundai, maybe also in corporate venture, because you've been into the corporate venture of Hyundai. Yeah, please go ahead. Someone raise their hand. Please type in your Yeah, John, if you could type in your question into the either the chatter or the Q&A session, and I will forward your question. Okay, so when did you start the development of the Elevate? There was an announcement in 2019 during the CES, right?
Yeah, right. So that was and we began the exploration probably back in 2016 is when I began to explore the question, the early idea, and it was really a question was, what if a car had legs and could walk? And that was literally the beginning question that I began with. And it was at a very low level, meaning that I was focused on corporate venture capital at the time, but there's a part of me that likes to explore, and so I was exploring that question, and that resulted over the next 3 years an idea that I presented in 2019, the Elevate concept. And so I was still doing corporate venture capital at the time. I just had this side project, and this is maybe speaking to the corporates out there, allowing a little bit of time for people to think of these questions that are not the main core job, but if you give them a little time to explore, something interesting can happen. And so 2016 is when we asked the questions, and then 2020 is when I now full time to spend on developing the concept even further.
Okay, so yeah, we have someone, John Rappaport is asking, do you consider design requirements for space or subsea? So do you consider that this vehicle will be running on Mars maybe? I think that might be the idea for John.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think about planetary exploration because there are no roads yet on Mars or the Moon or any other rocky planetary body, right? And so therefore the need for a vehicle with extreme mobility makes some sense. It's more clear why you would want that, right? So yeah, we do think about that. And as a great way to prove out these capabilities. They obviously have a lot more other challenges to add on top of that, but I do think about that a lot because again, it's exploration and it's a great way of demonstrating the utility of robotic legs on a four-wheeled vehicle.
Okay, so then I've got also some, and what about subsea? Do you consider subsea as a possibility? Because recently we have seen that people are considering to the deep sea to collect some materials.
I'll be honest, I haven't, and this is I want to admit my blind spots, and that there are applications that I am not aware of. Right. And one of the things I appreciate about things like this is to think about those other applications.
Yeah, I think in any case, it would be difficult to have a composite vehicle recyclable under the sea because the material will probably not withstand the pressure and the water. So a company called Hyundai Motors is developing a robotic vehicle as well. So it's a vehicle that can drive and step over obstacles, climb stairs, and climb onto trucks. So a lot of capabilities already. So yeah, Michael from Hyundai Motors would like to get in touch with you to discuss collaboration. So that's not really a question, but yeah, have you ever heard of Hyundai Motors?
Yeah, I have heard, and I'm fully aware that there are other methods to do similar function, right? And so I would say I've heard of Hyundai Motors, and there are probably other approaches out there as well. And so what I would say is it's good to see all the alternatives. Sort of like the early days of the aviation industry, you had hundreds of dozens of design, or maybe not, but many dozens of designs of aircraft, right, before we settled on the current configuration we have today. And so I think there is a need to try out different designs, and there will be an evolution, if you will, process that sort of shows which configuration is good for which function and mission.
Mhm. And Marianne is also willing to contact you for cooperation. So Marianne, if you haven't had the chance to click on the poll to ask for a contact, you can still sign up on the Blue Morpho website, and we will forward your request. If you could elaborate on the content of what you have in mind in terms of cooperation, because you can imagine that John receives a lot of solicitation, and we need to filter a little bit. So we will indeed forward all the requests, but at the end, John will make the decision to contact you. Okay, so we are reaching the end of this session. If there are no other questions in the audience, I'm checking the link to sign up here. Okay, so I just would like to thank you again for your participation. It was very early for you. It was really an inspiring conversation, honestly, and this is a truly disruptive concept. Everything is disruptive in this vehicle. So, and I didn't even use the word transformer. But I know you like, so. Is it a dream that you had from when you were younger to make a transformer? Are you inspired by science fiction?
I am very inspired by science fiction, yeah, for sure, and because it's just it's stretching the imagination, right, and it helps us to think of things in different ways. So I'm really, it's my favorite genre of movies and books is science fiction.
Excellent. So yeah, if we want to be inspired, we can look into this kind of books. Okay, so thank you very much, John. I want to thank the whole audience for his participation, and everyone stayed for the full hour. So I think that everyone was really interested. Sorry again for the technical issues at the beginning. I hope it was not too disturbing and that you enjoyed the show. So a few announcements for the future. We will have other events. So next week we have a dedicated session that will be moderated by myself again. I will interview Dr. Ali Muhammad, who is the head of robotic system at European Dynamics, and he is also the coordinator of DIH². And this session is more dedicated to digital twins in smart manufacturing. So this will be next week, and we also have another session in December where the company Pfeiffer Vacuum, so Pfeiffer Vacuum is a company working into the semiconductor industry, so they know that business very well. They are selling vacuum pumps for the semiconductor industry. And we will have two guests, Stéphane Mauvais, who is Innovation Director, and Pascal Ochalek, who is Industrial Director. And they will talk about their 15 million euro investment into a brand new factory. So they have invested into a new plant, which is fully automated with Industry 4.0 capabilities. And that will be a great opportunity again to see Industry 4.0 in action. And so this factory has been delivered. It's now up and running for a bit more than 1 month. And then we will see how they created this factory, how they have gathered the 15 million euros to build this kind of buildings, and also what are the difficulties that they are encountering now, the difficulties that they have not seen before. And I started to discuss with Pascal about that, and I think you will really like what you will learn from this session. So if you want to be in, so I don't think we have a link so far for this particular webinar, but very soon, so keep registered onto our LinkedIn profile and you will get the information, or of course, sign up into our network. So thank you, John, again. Have a great day, and thank you to the whole audience for the participation, for the active participation. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.